council, I would like, it's already 9 o'clock, so, I mean, I hear we all want to have it, we have opinions, but I support the one that is recommended by the chief.
We have a motion, and we need to have a second if we want to discuss it, otherwise it will fail and we'll have further discussion.
Was there a motion? Did you make a motion?
I didn't make a motion.
I would make a
stated I
motion
think-
Oh,
to
I thought you said-
recommend the police department monitor area number 3 to determine if a sign would be needed at this location. That sign will also be included in the parking discussion, the village-wide parking discussion we're scheduled to do.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just want to state I'm fully not in support of that motion. I feel that that will take, the comprehensive study for the parking is going to be way longer. It's going to be 2019, and then this wouldn't happen until summer 2020. I think that, as I stated, I would prefer that we just look in that Jarvis to wherever, and if there are spaces that don't, that are illegal to park, we stripe them, and then when we do our parking analysis, striping is every year, so we don't necessarily have to stripe again the next year. So I would like to do a stopgap until we have further data and do our comprehensive analysis, and then maybe it warrants signs. But again, the striping wouldn't have to be every year. You can evaluate that by the year. So I guess I don't know how to make a motion to amend that. Is there a way?
You can make a motion to amend any existing.
So what's the motion? Can you just, is it written in here?
It's to direct the police department to monitor area number 3 to determine if a sign would be needed at this location.
I just want to know, do I strike something? The motion I would like, the intent of the motion or the amendment would be to paint markings on the areas within, is it, I don't remember, Chief, 2 blocks on either side of Atwater that do not legally conform to a parking space.
So it would be in addition to monitoring per the recommendation of the police department, to also include X, Y, and Z. Is that?
Okay, to also include marking the spots on the east side of Lake Drive that do not meet the standards for a parking space within, Chief, can you recommend a block radius? Is it 2?
Well, I'd say Jarvis, but then it could be farther than that. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so Jarvis is 2?
I don't have that, I can't make that recommendation, I don't have that information.
Is Jarvis 2 blocks? That's all. Is it 2 blocks?
It's a block.
Okay, within 2 blocks of either side of
I'd go up to Wood. For 2 blocks, I think you gotta go up to Wood.
Okay, for 2 blocks. On either side, on the east side of Lake Drive.
Second.
So there's amendment and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a
Oh, do you want to
question.
read it back? I'm sorry. Can you just read it back first? Go ahead.
All right. Parking spots on the east side of Lake Drive that do not meet the standards of parking space within 2 blocks of either side of Atwater Park. That was the west side.
That's in addition to the
Regular motion.
regular motion.
Correct.
That's the amendment.
That's the amendment.
So it's the original motion to approve
Leave
the
the whole thing.
monitoring
Yep.
pursuant to the,
So it's direct the police department to monitor area number 3 to determine if a sign would be needed at this location. And to include marking spots on the east side of Lake Drive that do not meet the standards of a parking space within 2 blocks on either side of Atwater Park.
Is it supposed to be the west side? Are they on the west side? So then if they're on the west side, I say east and west. I just want to know.
I'm not sure what the question is. We're talking about the east side. I looked at the east side. Now that being said, the whole west side is another issue because that in 2 has multiple areas where, now I also want a point of clarification. If you're going to direct me, I want to know what your interpretation of a legal spot is. I gave you the approximate size of a vehicle, which is 4 to 16 feet. And but obviously an SUV or some type of other vehicle is larger, but 4 to 16 is your average. I looked up on Google, so I mean, it could be a little bit better than that. But then you have you need 4 feet from either driveway. So if it's a 16-foot car, add 8 feet, it's 24 feet. Is that what you're considering to be a legal spot, or is 27? Because that's for no room of error, right?
Chief, did you write the recommended motion or did Rebecca?
I didn't write it.
The motion was I was gonna monitor area number 3. That was my motion.
Is that what the motion is on the floor?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I need to know what your interpretation of, because you're gonna ask me to go out and
Attorney
check
Garrett.
that, so.
Make it humble suggestion.
Yeah.
What you could do, so that you don't have to deal with that issue, is to say mark 4 feet from the driveway, which is,
Okay, so thank you for that. If it's okay with the board, I will withdraw that amendment and restate it. Anyone have an objection? Okay, so trustee Mentor, are you okay with that? Okay, so I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. It's the original motion plus striping, is that what you said? Striping or painting, marking 4 feet from the driveways, 2 blocks north and south of Lake Drive on both the east and west side.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Rebecca?
And this is a question for Director Bushlick. So we do we contract with pavement markings every other year. Is that
No, it's annually.
annual? Sorry, I thought someone said every other year tonight, so I was confused. But okay, so thank you for that clarification. Have we done that already this year?
They're currently in the process of, they have like a week left, waiting for it to stop raining.
So, I'm assuming that have we been doing this with the same contractor? Is this like an RFP that was issued for striping?
It went out
I guess the
for,
root of my question is, I'm not, like, is it realistic to have it concluded this year within the scope of that? And if so, is there any, I'm sure you can't tell me right now, but is there any approximate estimation of what that cost would be?
I would like to say I wouldn't think it would be a big deal.
Okay.
But then again, I would have to check with the
Okay.
contractor.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get that, to know where we were with that. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Bachers?
And I had a similar question, which was what would the fiscal impact be of this? And also, is this practice done anywhere else in the village? Will this aesthetically alter the look of our lovely Lake Drive? And also, I guess thirdly, it sounds like we're making a rush decision based on, I mean, I'm not sure this is not a state of emergency here for a parking situation, so I'm just wondering why we would, it seems kind of an arbitrary decision on the fly for something that our police chief said that recommended that we do a monitoring for. So I'm just wondering if it's a valuable use of our police and DPW's time and village resources, and also without understanding the fiscal impact, and also if this is something that the whole residents would want. Again, I'm not comfortable making this decision tonight.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Maher?
Are we painting the curbs or are we striping the pavement? I didn't.
Markings, and I think we leave it up to DPW. That's why I didn't
Curbs,
specify.
yellow paint on the curbs.
It's yellow, it's just whatever markings we do it.
And we've got turn lanes on the west side that are gonna vary depending on the time of day, the length of the turn lanes. So those, we've got time. The summer season is when this occurs, so I think we have time to wait and think through it a little more. Because I'm sure people on Kenmore near the Oakland would also be very interested in it's a bigger issue than just this one spot.
Sure, the public hasn't had really time to weigh in.
When would the next marking contract, when would the next marking cycle go out? So the board would understand if it's not now, when would be the next annual, I don't know if you do it on fee or whatever.
Next spring, so we do it annually. So usually line painting takes place late May, early June.
it doesn't matter to me if it's now or if it's before the summer. I mean, as long as it was within the year.
Oh,
Right? I mean, I don't remember what the motion was, but it doesn't say when.
okay.
All right, trustee Warren and then trustee McKay.
You know, from my perspective, I want to make sure that we do the monitoring here. I want to make sure that we address the specific issue that we've been tasked with addressing. Obviously, in theory, I'm in support of painting the curbs within 4 feet in from the driveways. I think that'll provide clarity as to where people can park. I do want to make sure that we don't rush a decision. And if there's no time constraints here, I think consideration of it in the spring might be a better way to go about this. That way we can figure out exactly what we want, exactly how we want it, and also get public input on it. I mean, theoretically, I'm in support of that, very much in support of it, but I think we want to make sure that we bring in the right parties here. So that's where I stand on this.
Thank you. Trustee McKay?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I can relate to years and years of having residents complain and not having the will of the board to make a policy decision. So I think I would rather take time with it, because I think that there are several areas around town that do relate to either public amenities or commercial, interests that this might be relevant to. And I do think there would be a fiscal impact, and I wouldn't recommend going into it with the thought that we wouldn't stripe every year, just because once you establish something, it's very hard to convey whether it exists or doesn't exist. So for that reason, I don't support it tonight, but I'd be welcome to, I would look forward to having a more thorough discussion.
Thank you. My final comment is, I appreciate having more public input on the proposal of the amendment. I just wanted, because you're new, we have years of public input complaining about the parking there, so we can definitely have more. I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we have an amended motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Oh, sorry.
If we're voting on the amendment.
Right, the amendment, right? Oh, I'm sorry, did I say the amended motion? Amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Okay, motion, the amendment fails, so we'll vote on the original motion.
The original.
Yep, and then we'll vote.
To direct the police department to monitor area number 3 to determine if a sign would be needed at this location.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-2. All right, thank you very much for that conversation. We are moving on now to consider ordinance 2094, amending parking regulations for Lake Drive.
All I'll say on this one is this is fairly administrative. It's based off of the feedback and the motion back in, was it April, I think it was, when we talked about Lake Drive. The one piece to note in the memo was we had a resident during that time inquire about restricting length from when the sidewalk ends to improve visibility on Lake Drive. We ended up seeing the ordinance that we have language that restricts parking within 15 feet. We're not bringing forward any amendments to that. We felt that that was adequate, but that was just some information I wanted to share prior to the consideration of the ordinance language.
What's the motion, what's the action required to approve an amendment to the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay,
So you're amending the ordinance based on the track changes that's provided in the attachment.
Okay, can you just tell me what those were again?
You should have two versions. You should have a version that is red, and then another version that is the final version. So it probably would make more sense for you to take a look at the track changes.
So these are you saying that these are,
This is consistent with your motion that you had back in April for the Lake Drive changes. We're just putting it into the ordinance, and you have to do a roll call vote to make that active.
okay?
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions on that?
I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 2094, amending parking restrictions for Lake Drive.
Second.
Any discussion? My discussion is, I believe at that meeting when we made those changes or a motion to make changes, we also didn't have a comprehensive study. And so since it sounds like the board's will of waiting until that study is available, so before we enact further restrictions that is there any downside to that?
Well, yeah, because like what some of these actions are doing, like for instance, right now, you know, we're not, a lot of these are parking restrictions. So like for instance, you can't park on the east side of Lake Drive from 4 to 6. So it's removing that, except for those that are within the 50 feet of the T intersections. So those are the kind of language changes that are occurring. Does that make sense?
Trustee Warren?
So I'm trying to kind of follow up on that. So